It's quickly becoming a thing, at least among Pittsburgh Steelers. Yesterday, we saw Juju Smith-Schuster sign a guy's scalp, and that guy turned that autograph into a tattoo. James Conner doing the same thing, from Sharpie autograph to actual tattoo. There it is. It's permanent. That is not washing off. The James Conner signature and the Steelers logo right next to it. We mentioned James Conner because this is a big year for the Pittsburgh Steelers. We're going to play What's More Likely in this segment, Chris. And the first question relates to a team that's trying to get back to the top of the division and the top of the conference. Pittsburgh Steelers, what's more likely? Ben Roethlisberger, James Conner, and Juju Smith-Schuster becoming the Steelers' new version of the triplets, or the offense flops without Antonio Brown and Le'Veon Bell?
Well, I'm going to say it's the new. You give me a choice out of those two, I'm going to go it's the new version of the triplets. I do not think this offense is going to flop. I just think there's still too much talent. Offensive line, one of the best in football. Now, it's going to hurt that Mike Munchak's not there anymore and that he's now with the Denver Broncos. That concerns me just about as much as Le'Veon Bell and Antonio Brown not being there. But regardless, this is a team that's had a knack as far as finding receivers, getting Dante Moncrief in free agency, drafting a few guys. O-line's good, system's good. I still think it's going to be one of the better offenses in all of football, Mike.
That's the real I've got two questions.
Yeah.
Because last year we saw what the running game could be with James Conner and Jalen Samuels. But Juju Smith-Schuster was number 2 to Antonio Brown. Now Smith-Schuster is going to be getting the attention. Can he handle double teams, triple teams? Can he still get open? And can whoever the number 2 guy is, whether it's Dante Moncrief, whether it's James Washington,
right,
second-round pick from a year ago, they need to step up. Deontay Johnson, a guy they drafted this year. Who steps up to take advantage of the one-on-one matchups that will be across from Juju Smith-Schuster?
Yes.
That, to me, is a key. Also, there's a belief Vance McDonald's going to have a big year at tight end. Maybe he's somebody who takes advantage of the extra attention paid to Juju Smith-Schuster. But the constant is Ben Roethlisberger, folks.
Right.
You may not like him. You may, you've heard the stories, and we may, look, he's done some things in the past that are not good things off the field, or at least he allegedly did. The bottom line is he's a great quarterback.
Yeah, that's right.
And we can't lose sight of the fact that he's the guy who's still there. He said recently his arm's as strong as ever. And as long as he's, all these great receivers, why do they have all these great receivers? Maybe it's because they have a great quarterback who's throwing the ball to them.
Yeah, I think that's very real, Mike. And I'm glad you said that about Ben Roethlisberger, because I feel like some of the stuff that's gone on off the field has infiltrated guys' minds and thinking of what he is on the field. And, Mike, another great point by you with Vance McDonald. That to me, is the guy that I go, he might be second this year. Vance McDonald has last year kind of entered that, upper echelon of tight ends in all of football. I'm good in the run, really good in the run game, really physical after the catch. He's kind of got some Gronkness about him, and I would bet, if you made me bet money, he is the next guy in line in that offense after Juju Smith-Schuster to get a lot of balls coming his way in the pass game. But you're going with the new triplets, right? You're not saying it's a bust. You didn't answer it fully.
No, I'm saying, no. Well, yeah. I don't know that you. Yeah, I guess you eventually answered it, but I agree with you. I'd like to disagree with you. See, when I agree with you, I'm just not going to say anything.
Yeah, okay.
You only hear from me when I disagree.
Yeah,
but Vance McDonald, remember last year, he basically ripped out the soul of that Tampa Bay Buccaneers defensive back down the sideline.
So
we may see more of that this year. All right, so Antonio Brown was in Pittsburgh. Now he's in Oakland. Next topic. What's more likely for the Raiders? Antonio Brown revives Derek Carr's career, or Antonio Brown throws a temper tantrum by week 5?
Well, we could get both. I mean, that's very real.
We
could have Derek Carr could be on fire, and Antonio Brown's just not happy enough. He's not on fire enough that you could get both. But I think if you made me choose either one, I'm going to say that Antonio Brown revives Derek Carr's career. One, Antonio Brown is a phenomenal talent. We know that. John Gruden is going to formulate so much offense around Antonio Brown, but it's really about the rest of the offense around Derek Carr too. They've improved the offensive line. We talked about Josh Jacobs. He's going to be a huge part of that offense. They signed other receivers in free agency. So the Antonio Brown factor is certainly going to help, but it's a lot of other guys that are on that offense that weren't there last year that I think just make this offense better in general, let alone they're a little desperate. I mean, it wasn't a good first year, and I know my man John Gruden, his butt's hot right now. He wants to, put out a good showing in year 2 and please the fan base and please the organization.
But, I think that there is a good chance that by week 5 we will see, unless everything works out perfectly, because this team is going to be under a lot of pressure as it relates to their travel schedule. They get their first 2 games at home. They've got a Monday nighter against the Broncos. They've got the Chiefs the following Sunday. That's not an easy start to the season.
No.
Then they go to Minnesota, to Indianapolis, to England to play the Bears. That's week 5.
That's rough.
If we're, playing those 10 a.m. local time games, going to a place like Minnesota where it's going to be a hostile environment with a great defense, going to Indianapolis where there's a great team, you could see Derek Carr get disrupted. You could see, and I've said this all along, if Antonio Brown does not instantly come in and rack up the kind of numbers that he did in Pittsburgh, it's not going to be his fault. It's not going to be John Gruden's fault. It's going to be Derek Carr's fault. So I think week 5, by then, we're going to know whether or not this thing works. And we praised Ben Roethlisberger 2 minutes ago. I think we need to flip this around and say, hey, what's Derek Carr done to make us think he's going to be as good as Ben Roethlisberger and deliver the ball accurately in those windows where Antonio Brown can make those spectacular catches? I'm going to wait to see it before I believe it, Chris.
I hear you, Mike. I'm with you, too. I mean, he's certainly not in Ben Roethlisberger's class. We know that. And your point about the schedule, that's real. I mean, as soon as I pulled it up, too, I went, ooh, gosh. I mean, and then, it's the bye week, and then you got to go to Green Bay and the Houston Texans. So there is definitely the possibility of danger there if things start off slowly. We know that.
All right, next topic. What's more likely? The Ravens start the league's newest offensive trend, or they get figured out halfway through the season?
I'm going to go with they get figured out halfway through the season. I'm rooting for the Ravens. I like Greg Roman and John Harbaugh and Lamar Jackson, and I love kind of watching them bludgeon people that way. But this is one of those, I got to see it to believe it. I've seen the Greg Roman offense in San Francisco. We saw what they did last year with Lamar Jackson. Yes, things were good, but as we saw with the divisional playoff game and the Chargers, second time around, team was all over, all the little wrinkles, so I got to see the passing game work and being more efficient before I can really buy into all of this yet and see what Lamar Jackson looks like. So I'm going to go, they get figured out halfway through the year.
Here's the other thing, too. Even though the coaches are busy getting their teams ready, they pay attention to the things that are written and that are said. And it's almost like the Ravens are daring defenses to come up with ways to stop them. They're being a little cocky about an offense they haven't even, hey, check out my new car that continues to be in the garage. I'll show it to you in a few weeks. I just think there's an edge there that is going to make other teams even more motivated to try to pick this offense apart. So given those two choices, because I really don't think we're going to have a new West Coast offense coming out of Baltimore, I think it's more likely it gets figured out. And again, we saw the Chargers figure out what they were doing last year fairly quickly.
Yeah, definitely. And again, there's just too many question marks altogether right now. And as we've talked about a lot last year, it's just so hard to just think we're going to go on the field and just be the more physical, dominant team week after week after week in the NFL. At some point, you're going to meet another team that can meet that physicality. And then when that happens, what can you lean on in that offense? And that's what I got to see first.
All right, last one to San Francisco, where your buddy Kyle Shanahan is entering his 3rd year as the coach. What's more likely? Jimmy Garoppolo stays healthy and leads the 49ers to the playoffs, or Garoppolo stays healthy and plays like he did early on in 2018 before he suffered that torn ACL.
Yeah, well, it wasn't bad before he tore that ACL, but it certainly didn't look like we saw the year before when he came to the San Francisco 49ers and went 6-0 and everything like that. It definitely wasn't as smooth. That he missed some plays early on last year and some passes and bad decisions, definitely. But I'm going with Jimmy Garoppolo stays healthy and leads the 49ers to the playoffs out of these two options. One, the desperation factor, year 3 for John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan, yes. But I think the team is finally set up to succeed. O-line, really good. Going to be, a unit there for the next few years. D-line, defense in general, made huge improvements last year, and it's one of the better defensive lines in all of football, and they got Nick Bosa to go along with that and D Ford. So I think the 49ers are a playoff caliber football team in 2019.
Hey, I'm going off the board, Chris, because the two options here where he stays healthy and leads the 49ers to the playoffs or stays healthy and plays like he did before he was injured. I don't think he's going to stay healthy.
Yeah, I was going to say,
I think back to 2016, he had a 4-game audition for the rest of the NFL when Tom Brady was suspended, and he got injured in the second game.
Yeah.
And here we're last year, and it wasn't unavoidable. It was his own fault. So has he smartened up? Will he avoid contact? Will he be able to, in the midst of all that chaos that you're in the middle of as a quarterback, have the presence of mind to keep himself healthy? So I'm of those two options, I'm going to go option 3. He doesn't stay healthy for 16 games.
You're such a pain in the butt. Just pick one of the two options. You know, you always got to be a diva. You got to be Mr. Big Chest over there, where you're just going to go off the board.
Hey, even if he stays healthy, I mean, it's easy to – and I know this is delusion season and every team is going to make it to the playoffs and somehow they're all going to win the Super Bowl. But how are they going to make the playoffs with the Rams and the Seahawks in their division?
I know.
Look at the rest of the conference.
Yeah.
We talked yesterday about how loaded the NFC North is. The NFC East has 2 clear contenders in the Eagles and the Cowboys. The NFC South is going to produce 1 or 2 really good teams. It's not going to be easy to get to the playoffs. So between the two options, if you're going to force me to pick one of the two, I say he stays healthy and he plays like he did last year, and it's not good enough to get to the playoffs.
Okay, good. That's all I wanted to hear. I just wanted to get it narrowed down there. I want you to stay within the rules of the segment. Good job by you.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.